Welcome to the live chat for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I'm Benjamin Walker. This is Rufus Sewell.
Hi.
Our director, Timur Bekmentaroff. You know, he makes me nervous. He's so powerful and talented. Right, it's written there. And of course, our executive producer and author, Seth Graham Smith. Let's get started. Timur, well, first question. What is it particularly about Abraham Lincoln's life story compared to, let's say, other historical figures that make it ripe for an action vampire spin?
He was tall with a
It's the hat.
big hat and dark suit, and he was very strong man. There was a legend that he could hold the axe as a woodman. He can hold the axe in a stretch hand.
In a way, though, he was the first and probably the only true American superhero, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you think about the things that he did, I mean, you know, we've talked about this. You know, the fact that his story, we've talked about this forever. Timur, his story is like a superhero origin story. You know, he comes from disadvantage. He's surrounded by loss and death, and yet he's so strong and so, you know, determined that he picks himself up and he really trains himself.
Yeah, and what was unique that his weapon was his nation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's very unique superhero. It was not about the jumping from the roof to roof. It was about being with the nation, and nation was his weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Ben.
Yes.
So is it difficult as an actor to depict the grandeur of a legend like Abraham Lincoln, whilst also making him credible as a kick-ass, I don't know if it works with that accent, vampire killer?
That's an interesting question, Rufus. And it's kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about. What makes him fascinating and impressive is that he was a common man who pulled himself up, he was self-educated, he made himself into a hero, but his origins are our origins as ours, as citizens and as Americans and as common men and women. And then when faced with extreme and extraordinary circumstances, how do we react? And that's what makes him a hero.
Rufus, what I would like to know, if you could be so kind as to ask Ben, I was curious what kind of research he did for the role.
What he said.
Yeah.
All right. Actually, we did a lot. I mean, what we're making is a period movie that happens to be about vampires. I read a few books. One book in particular about the melancholy of Abraham Lincoln was very helpful, kind of about his depressive and romantic nature. It lends itself nicely to our Gothic tale. One
of the things that I love that Timur did with the movie is everything. I mean, even though the premise of the movie might sound ridiculous, everything within the movie is treated with real care and historical accuracy, from the way things look to the way Lincoln looks and behaves to the timeline of how things actually unfolded. And so I think that there's a strange, you know, for this big action, you know, summer movie, there's also a strange amount of historical accuracy in it.
Who the hell are you in this movie?
Well, I play Adam, and he doesn't appear in the book, which was a shock to me when I kindled the book very quickly, did a search for my character who didn't exist. I thought, that's a good start. But I see that it was necessary to have a central vampire who represented their aspirations, who was, I mean, I like to think, you know, that he sees himself as the president of the vampires, you know, that he's the counterpart. Because I see him, he comes across very much in the reading as a kind of cigar room deal maker of the vampire world, you know. Right. And to have this figure to whom all vampires led, you know, and that's why he's called Adam, because he's the original vampire, the vampire from which all other vampires came. He was around at the time of the ancients, of the pyramids, and, you know, and for someone who represented the heart of the threat, to be met with and dealt with towards the end of the closing chapter of the film.
And Tim Burton, producer, what's he like? Is he a nice guy?
He's a nice guy. I really think his role is huge in the movie. And we didn't understood because I think Seth wrote his book influenced by his movies, and you can feel it. I'm sure you like it.
You've just been ripping off Tim Burton.
No,
No.
that's what I'm doing now. Yeah. From this point forward. No, I mean, it's interesting. I've heard you say that, and it didn't occur to me at the time, but I feel like going back and looking at the book, you can feel the influence of that and other filmmakers and other writers in the book. I think Tim gave us the sort of protection to tell the story the way we wanted to tell it, which is very serious and straightforward, and never winking. I remember the first time we all met about it, we said never winking, never making a joke out of the concept, but just playing it seriously.
Timur, obviously your work is known for its extraordinary visual style. And this is in 3D, very exciting. What was that like, making a movie in 3D?
It's challenging. It's interesting because this language doesn't exist yet. There was only a few good movies, and nobody really knows what does it mean, 3D movie. There's no rules yet. Like everybody.
There's no classics.
There is no rules. It's only one really good movie, few
okay movies.
good movies, and that's it. And as any film language, it's just. We're just learning and we're just creating it, and it was very exciting for me to do it because it was a challenge and it was a chance to create our own language. And I think this movie will have this very distinct and unique language, 3D language. Because when you're fighting, the distance has a lot of
Sure, there's a lot to do with it.
A lot to do with it because when somebody's
especially with an
swinging axe, you need to know, and the audience has to feel the distance. And the 3D, it's only technique can help you really feel it, really feel if this axe will chop your head or not.
Oh, Ben, you know.
Yeah.
It strikes me out of thin air that you are a gifted comedian.
Oh, it must come out of thin air.
Out of thin air. I was just thinking about what a gifted comedian you were. You know, you like improv. You do some stage shows in New York, and you're a funny fellow. What was it like? What was it like, sort of getting into this more serious, more dramatic role?
Well, my training is classical training. I went to a theater school.
Juilliard, you can say.
All right.
Yeah.
There's that little pause.
But I don't know. I think what's fascinating about Lincoln is that I think he was a funny guy. He certainly had a sense of humor, particularly when he was traveling on the circuit as a lawyer and entertaining people. And the great storyteller, telling stories and making people laugh in the taverns at night. I don't think this is an unfunny movie. But it was pretty effortless because of the script that you wrote and Timur's direction. I mean, and how frightening Rufus is. I mean, it really sucks the humor right out of it when he's trying to bite your face off.
It'll be absolutely impossible for Lincoln to survive without sense of humor.
And there's so many different depictions of vampires. Why did you pick guys like Rufus to do this one?
Yeah, why did you make
there's so many different kinds.
What is genre?
What influenced you to?
Why aren't your vampires
Apart from
sexier?
just availability.
Right. Why don't they glisten in the sun?
Honest.
They're honest.
Yeah, honest. Like what was important in this movie that Abraham Lincoln has to be honest and Adam has to be honest.
But they're real, and that's what's scary about them. So your book, huge success, very exciting, and now the movie's coming out. Are you going to write a sequel?
I hope so. Yeah, I'm fascinated with, for people who read the book, without saying anything about the film or the similarity of the ending or whatever, the book certainly leaves things open. And there's more to, certainly the Henry story, and there's more to perhaps the Abe story than we have told in this book.
Adam story.
And certainly more in the Adam story, because frankly, I can invent a whole Adam story now.
Exactly.
From so there is the.
And you should as well.
I shall. Yeah. I wouldn't dream of it. I think look. Hopefully, we're very proud of the film, and hopefully the film does well, and everyone's clamoring for a sequel. But I certainly feel like there's more of the story to tell, even from just a book perspective.
It's been exciting to hear all of your questions about the upcoming film. Thank you for asking and take care.